Is the Sun Belt really up for grabs? It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Okay, we got baseball to talk about. Southern Miss hosting Alabama. Arkansas State at Arkansas. It's the final week of the regular season beginning tonight. We got a bunch of games to talk about. But, of course, is the Sun Belt up for grabs? But we don't know which order any of this is going to be in. And the amount of people that I love that have worked on this started off with Kara Ritchie from Jonesboro saying there's 7 different opportunities. There's 7 different teams that could tie for first place. All right. I do think, and we talked about it before, and they may not even be in 7th anymore, Arkansas State. I think they're in 6th. All right. But remember, in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, we'll just back this up. 1 and 2 have to play 2 games. That's it. If they're that fortunate, South Alabama only played 1. They lost last year. So if you're a 1 and 2 seed, you only have to play 2 games, max. If you're a 3 and 4 seed, you got to play 3 games, max. If you're a 5 or 6 seed, you're playing 4 games. And anything more than that, 7, 8, you're playing 5. Now, when I said Arkansas State could knock a team off, they would maybe in their 3rd game, they may have been able to knock off a 3 seed. Because remember, the 3 seed hasn't played a game in about an over a week, whereas Arkansas State would have played a couple of ball games. Now, there's going to be a difference between playing your 5th game and playing your 2nd game. All right, your legs are going to be jello by the time we get to 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter. All right. So the other team just has to keep it close while you fade. Most likely, not automatic, but it's not really a possibility. Whereas when South Alabama made that run a few years ago, they had an off day in between. They got an advantage of that. That's no longer the case in the Sun Belt. And so once we find out what the order is, then we'll be able to make a better assessment who can win it. All right. I still think Troy is pretty good. I'm still not sure what's gone wrong with them. I think South Alabama is really tough, but they have an issue offensive rebounding, or in their case, defensive rebounding. The other team does a good job offensive rebounding, and the other team can hit a bunch of threes. And if they don't cool off, it's tough for Alabama to win, South Alabama to win, right? You have App State, who is in first place right now. And they've just kind of, I don't say meandered, but kind of worked their way up. And all of a sudden, it cleared and they're back in first place. You got Marshall, who's pretty good. They beat App State to get into first place. And then they lost to Coastal. You got Coastal sitting there. Texas State is sitting there. Some of these teams are really good at home, like Texas State, and not really all that good on the road. Now, this is neutral, but it's still a disadvantage compared to being a home team. And I don't know how much San Marcos people are going to travel. This would be the best chance to travel, right? It's probably going to be the closest championship they're going to get for a minute, being in Pac-12 2.0. So we'll see. And Terrence Johnson has gone on runs before in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. All right. But I do want to show you this. It's not going to be easy to see. I can't see it. But I do have a graphic that I'll be able to read from a little bit easier. But this was pointed out to me on Twitter from App Steve. But it is, it's a TK from the paper. And it's at TK Pipe Dreams, okay? And I'm going to bring it up here and show you. He's got, or she, has all these different scenarios. He's got 7 different scenarios that could happen. Troy beats the Cajuns. Troy loses to ULM. South beats ULM. South loses to Southern Miss. Marshall beats ODU. Marshall loses to Georgia Southern. That puts Texas State first, Marshall second, South Alabama third, App State fourth, Arkansas State fifth, Coastal Carolina sixth, Troy seventh. That's unbelievable. Then you just go across and you can see all the different scenarios there. All right. Is that the same thing over again? Am I reading the same thing all over again? Oh no, he's got Troy beats. Okay. But he's got Texas State in there. Is Texas State winning this tiebreaker? Let's see. A 7-way Sun Belt tiebreaker is only possible if App State loses to Texas State. Both Arkansas State and Coastal go 2-0. Troy, South Alabama, and Marshall go 1-1 in the final week. Here's the scenarios depending on how the 1-1 splits happen. Okay. Obviously, TK Pipe Dreams is, along my thinking, we all love chaos. The thing is, all right, here's the problem with that theory. At first, to admit it, I was wrong. I didn't think South Alabama was going to lose to Texas State. I don't think South Alabama is going to lose to ULM at home, although they needed all kinds of miracles to beat ULM the first time around. And I'm not sure they're going to lose to USF. All right. Troy, I would think, beats the Cajuns at home and beats ULM, although they had all issues with ULM. And who knows about the Cajuns, but in this case, the Cajuns are playing on the road. All right. I'm not sure Marshall's going to lose. They're playing ODU and Georgia Southern, right? So these teams not necessarily going to lose. I do happen to think that Texas State will beat App State. So that could get it all rolling. But until we know what order this is in, right? Because South Alabama plays that zone. Could they win 4 ball games if they fall to the 4 and 5 to the 5 or 6 spot? Right. Some of these teams play much more man-to-man, and it takes a lot out of them. Could Jalen Spear for Marshall start putting up 30 points over 2 or 3 nights, right? Some guys get hot in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, and you can carry a team. Plus, that'll open it up for everybody else. All right. Although in Marshall's case, he was the only one who did anything when he scored 39 points. So until we find out who is where, it'll be difficult for me to say, it's totally up for grabs. But I'm only saying that based on, I just don't think a team who can play 5 games versus someone who's playing 2 is going to be able to do that. Now, it starts getting more even if both the 1 and 2 seed get upset. So then all of a sudden, someone could be playing in their 3rd game compared to be playing in their 5th game. You're getting closer there. All right. Having said that, if you ask me, it feels like anybody can beat anybody. I would say that. Right? South Alabama just beat Troy, but they lost to Texas State, who just lost to the Cajuns. Right? Troy needed all kinds of work to beat ULM. Right? South Alabama did not beat Marshall or App State on the road. Size issues with those clubs, right? And then Arkansas State's prolific offense. Can the Cajuns or ODU knock somebody off that they're not supposed to? Because we just don't know what we're getting with them at all, right? And when it comes down to it, ULM is not a pushover anymore. They may not have a whole bunch of wins, but a lot of teams are sweating games out against them. And then Georgia Southern puts up a 100 spot and shocks everybody. So I think it is up for grabs in terms of, I think anybody can beat anybody. I'm just not sure a team, can win, enough games to do that against teams that have played less games. So we'll see how it works out. It's certainly going to be a fun week. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right. So we'll have a full Wednesday show from the Palatial Studios here in Louisville. And then we'll do a show from Lafayette, as it turns out, although they won't be there. They're on the road. That's a little bit disappointing. Thought we may catch the Cajuns basketball and baseball when we were going down there. All right, so let's preview the final week of the regular season. We will do that next, right after I do tell you about Mazda and FanDuel. This is Mazda's opening the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. All right, let's go with App State, right? I think we talked about South Alabama, or maybe we didn't. Let's talk about App State really just kind of rising up and taking advantage of everybody else losing. They lost a couple of tough ball games, James Madison, Marshall, but then the schedule went in their favor. They had a home game against Georgia Southern, and heading into the final week, App State as atop the Sun Belt standings. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion in every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. But there's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. And FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team may make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of the year. Whether it's picking a team to win the NBA championship or a player to win MVP, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick win cash, but could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Speaking of that, you should become a member of the Everydayer Club. All right, great opportunity to go ad-free for just like $5 a month, or even better, $50 a year. Listen up. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live Sunbelt sports every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right. So the final week of the regular season is starting tonight. All right. And most of the games are on Tuesday compared to Wednesday, which is interesting. Usually it's the other way around, right? There's more games when you have Wednesday, Thursday. There's more games on Wednesday than Thursday, but now it's flipped around on the last week. All right. Troy hosting the Cajuns, and we already have the lines out. Troy, 12.5-point favorite. May take the Cajuns in that one, not necessarily to win. But Troy really hasn't been, has Troy been blowing anybody out? Troy was so good early in the season, right? They just lost to South Alabama by 11. They beat Monroe by 1, lost to Southern Miss by 4. They lost to Texas State by 12. They did beat Akron, which was a really nice win, but that's really like their last nice win, by 10. They did beat Georgia State by 11. And then they lost to App State by 22. They lost to James Madison by 9. So I am not sure what's going on. I know Sang did not play against South Alabama, but I'm still just not sure what's going on with Troy. Cajuns are just a much improved basketball team. All right. It has not been a very good season for Quantas White, outside of the fact that these guys have hung together and they are getting better. They're incredibly tough defensively. And when a few shots fall, they prove that they can win. So this is not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination for Troy. I think Troy will win, but Troy has just been in a funk for about a month. Marshall taking on ODU. Marshall, 6.5-point favorite. This should be a win for Marshall, but ODU is another one of those teams that you just don't know what you get. It's like Forrest Gump says, it's like a box of chocolate, and it's not on the back cover what each flavor is. You just don't know what you're getting. They beat the Cajuns by 11 in a game they controlled. They beat Georgia State by 33. They beat Georgia State 78-55 and then lose at Southern Miss by 5, right? They beat Georgia State by 33, and that's after they lost to Marshall by 2, but beat Ohio by 6, and they even lost to Monroe. I don't know how you explain that. So it's just been a weird season for ODU. They have a lot of firepower. Jordan Battle is very good. Marshall should win this game, but it's another one where you got to make sure you do, right? There's no looking ahead now, because if you don't win this ball game, whether you're Troy or Marshall, then this Friday's game don't really matter without a little bit of help. But it may not matter then anyways to at least get a co-championship. All right. All right. So those are those two ball games. Again, the home team, I'm not going to pick any upsets, to be honest with you here. Actually, I'm going to pick one upset. I don't know why that's the case technically, but I'm sure there will be an upset. All right. So Troy is a favorite. Marshall is a favorite. How about Coastal Carolina being an underdog? Georgia State has won like one ball game in their last 7, and they're a 1.5 favorite. If Coastal Carolina loses this ball game, when they have a chance to move up the standings, it's going to be tough to predict what they could do in the Sun Belt Championship. You can't be losing to Georgia State. Georgia State can be tough. All right, another one of those teams that, again, loses, but, makes you battle. Actually, they lost to James Madison by 15. They lost to Old Dominion by 35. They did give JMU a tough loss, or tough win for JMU by 2. They lost to Northern Illinois in a game they probably should have won by 1. They lost to South Alabama by 2. They lost to the Cajuns by 10. They beat Arkansas State by 1. I mean, some of the games in the Fun Belt this year are really hard to explain. It just doesn't make any sense. I would think Coastal Carolina would win this game. It's a minor upset, certainly not a major upset, but Coastal Carolina should win this ball game. And then Arkansas State is hosting Southern Miss. Arkansas State by 9.5. We'll see if Arkansas State all of a sudden is putting it together. All right. Let's see what the standings are as of right now. I know what they are. See, I don't think these are in the right order, by the way. Let me see what we got here on the Sun Belt. Let's see if the Sun Belt has it the right way, because they should, in terms of tiebreakers, right? They should have it the right way. They don't. So, well, maybe they do. ESPN has App State 1, South Alabama 2, Troy 3, Marshall 4. But I don't think that's the way that it goes, because I think South Alabama is number 2 because their overall record is 20-9 compared to the other two teams are 18-11. That's why they're there in their standings, but that's not the case, because South Alabama against Marshall and Troy is 1-2. They lost to Troy. They split with Troy. That's 1-1. They lost to Marshall, so they're 1-2. All right. Troy beat Marshall and split with the South Alabama, so they're 2-1. Whereas Marshall is 1-1 against the team. So it should be South Alabama in this case, right? This is how quickly it can change. Go from a 2 seed to a 4 seed, because they would really be 4 seed right now. Texas State is all alone in 5th right now. They only got the one more ball game against App. Arkansas State and Coastal Carolina are each 9-7. James Madison, Southern Miss are 8-8. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, and the Cajuns are all 7-9. Old Dominion 6-10, and ULM is 1-7. But again, you could find yourself playing for a first place tie and still finish 6th. In fact, if you get all 7 teams finishing in a first place tie, someone's going to be the 7th seed. Everyone's going to finish up 11-7, and someone's going to be the 7th seed, and that's not where you want to be. You really want to be in the top 2, but if you can be in the top 4, I think those teams have a shot, especially the way each of how even these teams are. The matchups are also So very key. All right. All right. Let's take a time out. We'll come back. We'll talk Sunbelt baseball. Southern Miss off to a great start, and they're hosting Alabama tonight. Let's talk about that when we come back after I tell you about Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. Since I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. I don't mind sharing. It's gotten cold again in Louisville, and it's in the 70s in South Louisiana. Hopefully it warms up by the time I come back. I will say, hashtag always a bright side. And doesn't matter the temperature. The ice cream place down the street from where I live is opening up when I get back. So, and I got a day off the day after I get back. So we'll be having some ice cream. right when I got something to look forward to. I love basking in the glow of anticipation. Okay. Meanwhile, Sunbelt baseball off to a pretty good start with Southern Miss sweeping the weekend. Purdue, Oregon State, and Baylor. All right. And their RPI for the time being is 7, but these things are changing at 100 spots at a time. All right. They have a nice game against Alabama tonight. Well, let me check when that is, actually. Because we'll make sure it may be in the afternoon for all I know. I doubt it. It's probably at night, right? Let me see. But it's an opportunity for Southern Miss to keep on getting those nice wins. It is at 6 p.m. Central Time. To build those up, even if they are not great RPIs right now. All right. Because it's right now, I'll tell you right. Like Coastal Carolina does have a good RPI. They're in the 240s as of right now. Alabama's RPI is 119. I presume that's going to go up. All right. You want to check? Let me see what it was. Alabama made a regional, right? Last year. Let's see what it was last year. Just, after SEC play. Where was Alabama last year? They were in the middle of the pack. They were 15th. Here you go. This is the SEC. They finished 16-14, 41-18 overall. So they only lost 4 non-conference games last year, but they barely finished 500 in the SEC. They had a 15 RPI. That's why winning this ball game for Southern Miss is huge, because it's going to help out all year long. Same goes for Arkansas State. They're going to go play Arkansas. And, do they have a shot at pulling that off? That's a big ball game, right? Arkansas is 6-1, currently ranked 6th in the nation. Arkansas State off to a great start, 5-2. That's a big opportunity. All right. Coastal Carolina looks to, they're not playing as well as they should, and they're all banged up. Still, they're 5-2. Right? They're still playing pretty well. They get Campbell, the 9th-ranked Chanticleers. All right? Georgia State's going to take it on the chin against Georgia Tech. Maybe. That's a 4 o'clock ball game. Georgia Tech has one of the best offenses in the country. Georgia State off to a pretty good start at 6-2. UL Monroe hosting Grambling. See if Monroe can come up with a win. Georgia Southern looking for that first win of the season. 0-7. That's a tough start. Having said that, this is where maybe the RPI is a little broken. Where do we think Georgia Southern is? They are not nearly at the bottom of the Sun Belt for RPI. They're 192. James Madison, 271. They're 3-3. Old Dominion, 248. They're 5-2. Texas State, 5-2. 247. Coastal Carolina, 5-2. They're 2-10. So surprisingly, that is not the case for Georgia Southern, but it would be nice for Rodney Hennon and his crew to pick up a victory. All right. Let's see if they can get one against Kennesaw State. Elsewhere, Texas State hosting UTSA. UTSA, by the way, 7-0. That would be a nice win. I have no idea where UTSA is in this. We can quickly find out. The fastest way is going to Texas State's page and seeing their thing. UTSA, how about this? Is 2. They're number 2. I think they're the ones who swept Dallas Baptist over the weekend. So that's an opportunity for Texas State to knock off number 2 RPI, UTSA. Now, in all reality, obviously, I don't think UTSA is going to have a top 10 RPI. They may, but I doubt it. But it's still got a good chance to be a top 30, right? Certainly top 50. Right? And that's big for the Sun Belt. So again, these midweek ball games are important for the Sun Belt, and they have some really good opportunities here, right? Arkansas State against Arkansas is going to be tough. Georgia State against Georgia Tech is going to be tough. I think Southern Miss can beat Alabama. They're 7-1. Alabama's 7-1. Texas State at home may be able to take down UTSA. The Cajuns, they get Kansas State. Kansas State's 6-1. And all of a sudden, Louisiana's 5-2. Not looking nearly as bad as they did after the first weekend, but I'm not sure we'll see if it's a facade. They got a couple of walk-off wins, right? The Maryland bullpen, did really well on Sunday. The Cajuns bullpen was up to the task as well. On Friday night, the Maryland bullpen melted down, all right? That was more about the Maryland bullpen than the Cajuns actually coming through. And South Alabama is at Southeastern. Now, that's a big ball game for the other side because you don't want to be losing to 2-5 Southeastern. That's the other way. Some people don't believe me when I say, if you have a team at the end of the season that you're playing in the 200s and you take 2 out of 3 and you lose one, it's going to go down more than it went up after the 2 wins. That one loss hurts you more than the 2 wins. And the few coaches that we talked about with that leading into the season agree with me. And baseball is not meant to be swept. It's meant to be winning series 2 out of 3. So the pressure to sweep later on in the season is brutal. And that's why these ball games now matter so much. It's important to win the ball games that you can, hosting at home. And if you win one on the road, the Arkansas State chance to beat Arkansas on the road, that would be enormous. Huge. Let me see where that is. Does it say where? Is it in? Let's see here. Yeah, it is in Fayetteville. All right. I thought it may be in Little Rock, but it is in Fayetteville. So it's a great opportunity. You get bonus points there, but if Arkansas State doesn't, it can still help you. Losing to Arkansas on the road is going to help out the RPI. All right. Losing to UTSA at home ain't going to help. That's not great. They're going to look at it as a good opportunity to get a nice win against Texas State on the road. So is Alabama, right? Alabama's not ranked. Southern Miss is ranked. Alabama's looking like this is a good opportunity for us. So that's why it's important for the Sun Belt to win these ball games when they have that chance, because later on in the season, it will pay off. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Today is the last day of training. We will be open up on Tuesdays the following week, which I won't be there. Because we are going to enjoy some warmer weather, some college baseball, and catching up with some old friends, and probably enjoy a little bit of pretty good bourbon. All right. Want to thank you again for tuning in. Please go over to Locked On Sunbelt and subscribe. I had one faithful Twitter follower said she couldn't wait until I started talking baseball. And I'm like, I did 10 coaches. Did you miss that? How did you miss that? Someone still not happy with my football take on Southern Miss, thinking that I was going to say Southern Miss was lucky to win, which I don't think they were lucky at all. I think they hung on one time against Purdue, but Southern Miss is good. They haven't been lucky. As it turns out, Schultz was right about those interceptions. The other team stopped throwing it to Southern Miss. Southern Miss had difficulty winning. Just saying. All right. We don't have to do that again. All right. Because we're looking forward to Southern Miss playing really well and hosting, and maybe, right, looks like right now they could be a national seed. We'll see how it plays out. We're only 2 weeks into it. All right. This is the beginning of week number 3. So again, thank you for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt. Really appreciate it. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday. And then in Thursday's episode, I will be in South Louisiana. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again soon.